All right. Welcome, everyone, to the regular meeting of the Eureka Springs Parks and Recreation Commission. Today is August the 20th, 2024. We're going to start out by doing a roll call. Start here on the end.
Beth Giltner.
Ruth Mitchell.
Aaron Borey.
Mark Ingram.
Rod Gray.
Sam Dudley.
And Ruth Hager is on her way. She will be here shortly. Let's see. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rod to approve the agenda, second by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right. Next item is the approval of the meeting minutes from our previous regular meeting, which would be July 23rd's meeting. You guys should have all seen that. Anybody have any questions or anything to say about it?
July 23rd?
July 23rd.
So move.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Rod to approve the minutes of July 23rd, second by Ruth Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, public comments. See, we have Sue here, so.
So this is Sue Hubbard from Eureka Springs. And I think we can all agree that FOIA is important and that the public should have a right to know how decisions are made by the Commission. So my request to you is that, it seems that one of the most key things that people would want is the documents that are given to commissioners before they make their decisions and before they vote. And I would hope that the Commission can make a commitment to making sure that those are available to the public. And why I brought this up, the morning after the last meeting, I put in a FOIA request for the quarterly financials, and those were provided to me very timely, so there's no issue there. But I also requested any documents that were given to the Commission in related to that agenda item. And it was obvious during the meeting they were talking about a document that had comments on some of the items in the financials. But that was not provided to me. And I understand from an email that Sam sent to Kim that he had taken that document with the financials and the comments and cleaned it up so he could send it to the council. But that meant that those comments were not available to be provided. So I'm hoping in the future you can save those documents and make sure they are available to the public, because it's important that they are made available so that we can see how decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay. All right, chairperson's comments. I feel like I had something I wanted to say, but I can't think of what it was at this time. So if it comes to me, I'll do it at the end. All right. Next item is Sam's director's report.
I guess I'll wait for Ruth to come sit down.
Miss Ruth is on her way in.
Okay.
We went ahead and said this.
There have been 4 drips from the ceiling since we started.
All right, Sammy,
Well, I mean,
let's do it. Oh, our drips.
I guess I would just comment on what that was in reference to, if that's okay. So yeah, when I make the quarterly reports for you guys, I make them with notes on certain things that might be like, percentages that fall pretty far far beyond those normal percentages you'd want to see.
More the why.
Yeah, just like little footnotes. And that way, before we show up to the meeting, if you have a question, maybe those footnotes will answer that question. However, I think I can keep those notes. I can keep a copy of that in the future. But the main reason, just to explain to you guys before the meeting, in case that answers your question why, instead of calling or emailing or whatever. And then when I send them to the city council, of course, I take those off because they're just little annotations, They're the scribblings of a madman, if you will. So
Not necessary.
That is a process that's been happening since I've been on the commission. Scott was elaborate in his notes, but you obviously, when you're submitting them to the city who has to submit them to the state, they don't have all of our side notes on it and little things like that.
Yeah.
What I would recommend is that you attach a printed copy of that with what you give Kim, and then she has one to present to the city council, and that other one.
yeah, I can just do like a save as, where it says, save the one, with notes, and then save one without notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway. Director's report. Summer is drawing to a close, and we are looking forward to switching gears and getting back to some of the projects we've had to put to the side until the grass stops growing and the gardens need less watering. The Harmon building is at the forefront of these projects we'd like to finish before the end of the year, because obviously it will have a large and positive impact on next year's budget. So I'd like to be able to include that in the budget for 2025, that we will for sure be able to bring in X amount of dollars from that building. At Lake Leatherwood, I've decided to open up the RFP for the shuttles. I think just see what happens. The contract ends December 31st, 2024. I'm just going to put it out there, see if we get any other businesses to apply. Not that it hasn't, not that it's been a disaster, but see if any other fish bite. So we are also in the final stages of solidifying an agreement with Apex Cleaning out of Huntsville to take over, not entirely, but a large percentage of our cabin cleaning operations out there at Lake Leatherwood. So they're just a private cleaning contracting firm, so we can kind of scale up if we need to. And then once we have that in place, we will probably have to make some modifications to our cabin rental rates that will incentivize guests to stay multiple nights, by lowering the nightly rate but adding a cleaning fee. So kind of gives people like, let's stay 2 or 3 or 4 nights. It gets cheaper if you stay multiple nights. Just today, I got news that Juanita, our park manager, Juanita Drought, has signed us up for our first fishing derby in many years.
Good.
It's kind of
It's going
exciting.
to be fun.
Exciting.
I don't know all the details yet, but pretty cool. Like, we've been just kicking around ideas about how to, bring more events to the park, and this is a really good one. Apparently, we have a pretty amazing catfish stock in the lake, so I don't fish, but a lot of people do, and so it'd be cool to kind of see that crowd there and, bring some more publicity to the park. That'll be in October, one Saturday. We'll post more when we know more. Also today, I was working on integrating digital waivers into our Square system so we can get away from using paper copies. I think that's going to be a small step, but a very smart, positive step. We've still been using paper waivers for, it's 2024. So I think it's time we go digital. In town, we have one big project coming up we're very excited about. Preservation Society is donating some money to restore the Crystal Terrace Bridge. It's a really cool bridge if you have been up there or not. Man, it's like really tinny in the microphone. It's like getting to my ears. It's like really trebly. It's a very iconic bridge.
Try the other one.
It's this.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just like killing my ears. Yeah, so it's above the library. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but up there above the library garden is the Crystal Terrace Bridge that runs along, connects 2 roads, and it's just kind of gone, to pieces a little bit. It's fallen apart. So Preservation Society is going to help pay for the restoration. So we'll be able to unveil that in the coming weeks, hopefully before fall when hiking weather gets, back to prime
And Sam, what was
temperatures.
the name of that bridge?
Crystal Terrace, or some people call it the Tulip Bridge. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and then we're also in talks with Main Street Eureka to install a handrail going up to the bridge, because it fell down or got knocked down by a tree about a year ago. We just haven't had the time or money to replace it yet, but hopefully we can get that. And then we're finalizing all the in-town trail signage. I was out today putting some of those up, and I'll probably be able to finish that tomorrow. So all the in-town trail system. Now we're just waiting on maps. Please let the maps arrive.
I would also add that recently I did a big hike through town, through some of the trails, and those signs are very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really good.
Yeah.
You know where you're going, you know what trail you're on, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, they're nice.
It's going to be even better
It's very
once
nice.
all the signs are up, because, there's some that just have blank faces on them, and it's like, once there's even that more detail, you'll just feel more comfortable walking around town, because
Yeah,
the
you're gonna
sign
get
means I'm
yourself
on a trail. And
back somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not on private property. It's okay. No one's going to shoot me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, that was nice. I feel like I wanted. Why don't you talk just a minute about the meeting we had down at the
at
Basin
Basin
Park?
Park.
Just
Yeah.
elaborate, but it was kind of cool.
I didn't really want to mention anything because it's, just so initial stages right now at the moment. But I met with Simon Wiley from Public Works and Kyle Palmer from HDC. Mark came down. Danielle and CAPC team came down. Who else was there? Rick Armelini, who's, historian for Basin Park, super nice guy. And Stacy Mahurian came down. And is there anyone else who's there? Oh, there's one person I'm missing. Maybe not. And James Cohen from the fire department came down. We all talked about Basin Park and kind of like, okay, we have so many studies showing us designs and engineering plans and blah, 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 and boring samples. And we've spent a lot of money on like trying to get the data prepared. And I think it's time we jump into this. And so the meeting was basically a call to arms, so to speak, to say, hey, let's team up, let's put our heads together, let's put our pocketbooks together, let's fix this fountain. It's sinking. It's been sinking for 20 years. There's a letter from McClellan Engineering back in 2011 stating if you don't do something in 10 to 20 years, you're going to lose the integrity of the park. I don't know exactly what that means. If that means it's going to cave in or if it's just going to be so far gone that you're going to have to tear the whole park up. But it's just, it's time we do it. And if we combine our efforts and our pocketbooks, it won't hurt any one department so hard. We can do it if we work together. So that was kind of.
It was pretty impressive to
That's
actually
exciting.
see. I mean, I heard it talked about, but I didn't really comprehend it completely. And then have Stacy explain what's underneath there, and then have the fire department had a GoPro kind of thing to stick down there to see what is holding everything up and what's not, where the water's coming from
That's
and the
cool.
different levels.
Yeah.
And you really see where it's kind of sinking into the thing. And then to hear the ideas about how to fix it, it's not as dramatic as you might think. But it was kind of exciting. I was kind of fired up afterwards. Like, oh, that's pretty exciting. And anyway, hopefully the right people will keep working on that, but
Yeah.
get all the right people involved to
Yeah.
get that done maybe in the winter.
Yeah,
Is what our-
the plan
our
would be to
dream-
like maybe attack it right after, we take Christmas decorations down. So whatever New Year's celebrations happen, we get everything out of the park in terms of Christmas stuff. We move benches. That'd actually be a good opportunity to go and sand down and restain the benches. And then we start pulling it up, and we don't have to tear the whole park up. We can still leave a portion of it open for a walkway. Obviously, it'll be heavily,
Fenced.
yes. There won't be a whole lot there to use, but certainly we don't have to block the whole park off. We can, leave
There's
it
no
is
other way to get
thoroughfare.
around, really, so you kind of have to
Yeah.
go around it. All right. Anyway, I was kind of fired up. All right. Old business. The first item on the old business, and by the way, there's a couple of.
Oh, do we have any committee reports?
Oh, did we?
Sorry.
Did I skip right over that? Do we have any committee reports? Probably. I'm the finance committee, and
Yeah.
Beth, and we're caught up on reconciliations completely, and I think we got a notice of audit, right?
I think, yeah.
I
I
think
think
we
we're
got
okay, yeah.
like,
They came and got some materials, but
So they're in the process of doing what they do. So really, there's nothing to report on that. So I will move to the next one. I suggested to Sam, we did this, Ruth probably remember, so that when we're doing motions here sometimes, and it's kind of complicated, it's kind of nice to have the motion that we're kind of looking for. That doesn't mean that's the motion you didn't make. Just want to be really clear about that. It's just suggested to help you so that when it goes in the minutes, it's actually presented what you really mean versus, you know,
I think it's going to make it a lot easier for people listening and watching to know what.
So I just want to emphasize that that's what these are. These are not telling you to make that motion exactly like that. It's just saying this was a suggested way to do it to accomplish what the
And it's
actual
certainly
line
not telling
item.
you which way to vote on that motion.
It's
just
certainly not telling you that.
suggested wording,
Yeah.
because,
But I found that's really handy.
Helpful.
okay.
So
And when Scott Miskill was with us, he did that too, and so I assume it's legal to do that
Yeah.
because he's a lawyer.
yeah, I mean, it's really just a suggestion that helps us read it properly into
Yes.
the minutes. It's-
Yep.
Anyway, so the at-large positions one is, do you guys remember what that was about?
Yes.
Okay, and we have done all of basically what we end up needing to do, tell me if I'm saying this wrong, is that we really just we're just deciding whether we want that to be so, and if we do, we will pass a motion and we will submit that to the city and then they will vote on that. They get to decide that. This is just in order for us we have a total of 7 positions, which we're now we have 1 open right now, but of which 5 are city of Eureka Springs positions and 2 are at large. As you can see, it's hard to get people to serve. So the at large would allow 1 more to be at large. It doesn't have to be at large. It can still be city. I mean, all 7 could be just city. But at large allows us to go to Western Carroll County residents. So not over the bridge, but so just so you know.
Yeah.
And that's what that's about. Anybody want to discuss this? Or?
I want to say, do we need to define at-large position in the motion to say just Western Carroll County? Do we mean,
I
or is
think
the word at-large in the
All
ordinance
county.
already defined enough? We don't have to restate
Yeah,
it.
it's already kind of in the, I mean,
Okay.
we can specify it. You know, the addition of 1 additional at-large position, meaning residents of Western Carroll County. We could add that in if you'd like. Also, just, you know, I would like to say something because I don't know, I doubt many people really honestly care about this, but I know probably a few do. Because Parks is funded by sales tax, I feel like this is more than fair because there's a lot of people who live just outside city limits who still do all their shopping in the city. Beth, for example, Rod, for example, they still shop at Hart's, they still go to all the stores and shops in town, they pay the sales tax just like all the rest of us do. It's not a property tax funding, it's a sales tax. So people who live just outside city limits on Pivot Rock or down Oil Springs Road or whatever, the fact that they are, you know, limited in their participation, even though they're paying into the same thing we residents are paying into,
Exactly.
seems not exactly fair. So we're still keeping it majority Eureka, but it seems nice to add 1 more seat for people who might be discluded, or not included. Discluded is probably not a word. Not included into the mix. So discluded. Oh my God.
It should be a word.
Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss on this? Any thoughts?
No? I'll make the motion. I make a motion that we recommend to the City Council the addition of 1 additional at-large position to the Eureka Springs Parks and Recreation Commission, bringing the total number of at-large positions, meaning from Western Carroll County, to 3.
Second.
Motion from Beth, second by Rod. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Sam, I'm assuming that you will submit that to Kim?
Yeah, I don't know if city council needs signed minutes or not. I'll have to get with Kim and just see what the process is from here, but yeah.
We've lasted this long.
Yeah, we can go one more month if need be.
And
Okay.
if it's an ordinance change, they have to do several readings, don't they, anyway?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they'll have to do what their whole routine is.
Yeah, we're just recommending to the
Yeah.
council. Yeah.
Okay, second item on the old business is memorial benches in Basin Park. We know we talked a lot about that last time, and Sam went back and did some stuff, and he's going to talk to us about that.
As we're talking, I'll just pass these materials down. The plaque is not an exact copy of what would go in there, but it's close enough to where I figure I could bring it just
Get the
for-
idea.
Yeah, so you can, look at it in person. Yes, it's substantial. The actual one we would put in is slightly smaller than that one, but pretty much same material, same aesthetic. So as you know, the one bench, we had 13 benches redone in Basin Park this last winter, and that was paid for by the Preservation Society. So we put a plaque on one of the benches honoring that donation, and those are the photos that you see. So there's still a lot of stuff we'd like to do in Basin Park, and one way I thought of to, raise some money to get those projects completed was, I really like the look of those plaques, and I think they're classy. They don't look, cheesy or anything. They're well done. One thing we could do is ask for donations, set a minimum donation price for residents who would like to donate one of the benches in honor of someone. And so what that would look like is, let's say we set a price of $1,000 minimum price. The plaques cost $275. The installation's $100, plus time and effort from my team to go and get the bench and take it to the place. And so $1,000, we net profit $600 of that. We take that money, we put it into a project at Basin Park, specifically at Basin Park. So
will you have to
You come
create
in.
a thing on the budget for it that says that, like a special spot for it?
It's a good commission question. I mean, it's going to be labeled as a donation in the budget. Whatever money comes in would be labeled as a donation. We could put under QuickBooks. We could just put a tag on it
Tag
that
for
says
just
Basin
Basin
Park
Park.
donation. That way we know exactly what we're bringing in. And there's only 12 of them, so Nikki would be keeping track of that, obviously, pretty easily. And then, once we have all the funds, we pick a project we want to do. I have one in mind already, so I can discuss that later. Just a way to do something else cool in the park and keep the good energy going and keep the improvements happening.
So your suggested is $1,000?
Yeah, I think, if people want to donate more, they can, but I feel like $1,000 makes it to where it's worth, our time. And, there's only 12 of them left, and so it's sort of a limited edition thing. We're not going to put multiple on any benches, like it's just one per bench, I think, is kind of what we want to keep it as. Otherwise, you start getting a little out of hand. You get like 8 plaques per bench, and kind of loses its, it loses the special feel.
I want the bench.
Yeah, because it's like if you got your name on that one bench, it's like,
Yeah.
this is your bench, So that's the Preservation Society.
And no
bench.
commercial advertisement,
Correct. Yeah. There'll be some pretty,
Good point.
I don't want to say strict, but there'll be some pretty, very specific and non-wavering guidelines. There's no, this bench brought to you by O'Reilly's. There won't be any of that. So we'll make sure it's, in dedication of an individual. It could be a group, for example, if Main Street Eureka Springs wanted to buy one, I'm not opposed to that, but I'll come up with the verbiage and
Guidelines.
kind of the rules if you guys are comfortable.
Make it like so it can be
with that.
wholesome, no curse words on it or anything like that.
or
Yeah.
No curse words on there, or naked pictures or anything.
the family of, or something like that.
What's that?
The family of,
Yeah, that's fine. And they're pretty small. They're only like forget the exact dimensions, but I think they're like 5 by 7. So there's not a whole lot of space to write anything beyond just, this bench is in dedication of so-and-so.
Or just in honor, yeah.
Yeah.
In honor of.
I like the idea of the $1,000 for two reasons. One, it's doable. Two, it's enough where it's a big deal to do it. Like if it's much less than that, it's just sort of not a big thing. But
Yeah.
if it's a certain amount, it just, to me, it's a real commitment to do something for the park and for the person that you're honoring, and it also gives back to the park. So it's kind of a good double whammy. I like that idea a lot. I think the key question, I think we talked about, we all like the idea of doing it. The key question is that price good with everybody, and y'all feel comfortable with that price point to do it? That's kind of key too.
I think for the very reasons you stated, that's a good price. It's
Well, yeah, you
enough.
have to have it set it high enough to create the value of it, so to speak. You have to create its value by setting the price.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you did.
It's supply and demand, for one thing. We only have 13 benches, 12 left.
12 left, yeah.
Yeah. So if we want somebody to really want it, really do it, and it'd be a thing,
Yeah. And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it either, but Aaron had brought up a good point at one moment about how to make sure it's fair for everyone in terms of if you want it, that there's a fair process for getting it. It did occur to me, we could leave the window open for, let's say, 30 days. You have 30 days to come in, put your name in a hat, and then after that 30 days, we draw 12 names. And if you are one of the names, you get chosen to do that.
Lottery.
Yeah, I think that's really good for the initial offering of these, and then after that, it'll be first come, first serve. Because let's say only 6 people,
Yeah, if only 6 people sign up, then
then they
yeah,
all
obviously.
6 get it,
Yeah.
and then there's 6 more, then...
I hope more than 6. It'll be really sad if we only get 6.
Well, you got to think, they got to have somebody to dedicate it to,
Yeah, that is true.
That's
true. Yeah.
Yeah, but just in case, you should set up a lottery.
If I don't come back from vacation, then you guys can dedicate one to me, okay?
Yeah.
Well, we'll
I don't
chip in.
know.
I made it back from
$1,000.
vacation. You can come back too.
Are you worth that?
I think so.
But I think one question we have to consider with this is, with the minimum donation price of $1,000, and to your point of depending on X amount of people, we put in a hat, whatever that criteria is, do we differentiate if somebody comes in and says, I want to donate $2,500 for a bench? Do they get priority over lower donations, or is it
Yes.
still?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's.
But that needs to be.
I don't know if that's. But I mean, it sounds obvious when you say it like that. But I mean,
But that needs to be defined, that if...
Yeah, 'cause it's sort of
if we
like-
say it's just going to be a random
We
draw
can't-
of a hat or something, or...
I think
now
if we're going to set a
picking and
price, we
choosing.
kind of have to set a price. And if someone wants to give us extra in addition to that, it's great. But
Yeah.
that-
that's where it gets kind of tricky with
I-
we're a nonprofit.
I was teasing.
No,
agree.
yeah.
You said 1,000, it's 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
If they offer
fairness
1,000, then
kind of gets
that's what it is.
shady
Okay.
in that. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
Nope, no bribes accepted to get higher on the list.
We're not doing
I'm
auctions.
not suggesting.
I know, I
I'm
know.
not suggesting a bidding war.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
just suggesting I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah.
Where somebody, I don't want it to come back and say, well, I
I had
did
mine in
this,
first.
and
Yeah.
you.
I would like
gave
to
it
reassure
someone who
everyone
did
there's
less.
not many lobbyists at Harmon Park, so don't worry. I'm not getting bribed or anything.
Okay, well, I like that idea.
So you are basically stating minimum of $1,000.
Yes, and
That would be the way it would say it. That way they can give more money.
Right, that makes
Fine.
sense. That establishes it.
That is.
All right.
And then
Okay, we make a motion? Somebody ready? We're ready?
Aaron had one more thing to say.
Oh, sorry.
Well, just
See.
on the motion, based on the suggestion, and again, we can word this however we want, but I just want it to be clear that the wording on this, for whoever makes the motion, that it says one memorial plaque to be placed on each of the 12 benches, and it should be on
One.
one of the, so just
right.
clarification on the motion before it's made.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's good catch.
Good catch. Okay, I make a motion that we set, the Parks sets a minimum donation price of $1,000 minimum for one memorial plaque to be placed on one of the 12 wooden benches at Basin Spring Park.
Second.
Motion by Ruth Haggard, second by Rod. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, this next one is really interesting, Ms. Ruth Michelot. This is back to the talk about the future of the Artists in the Park program. And I think both Ruths are going to have to talk to us a little bit about it because we'll get your history.
And-
I don't know if y'all have had any conversation, but
We haven't, and I was going to say, I missed the workshop. I saw your communication with Sandy, and I kind of did a lot of research back in my stuff, too. And, yeah, let's go ahead and,
Well, why don't you share first the history of the,
well, I was going to, two things.
Okay.
The history of it is multiple things. I think you've already heard from some things. The artists, what's the name of that group? The artists, I forgot what
Arts
it's called.
Council.
Arts Council, thank you. Arts Council, the one thing I did want to point out, the Arts Council got involved because we kind of asked them to, because there were so many individual artists that were asking us questions at the time, and we just felt like that was a good place to go for an official group that could be their voice. Because we were getting all these individual artists asking us, so what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And we thought, well, we don't want to decide. The Arts Council never really wanted to, back then especially, be in charge of it. It was just more of a consultation.
They kind of vetted everybody, didn't they?
They vetted everybody, but even that was, at the beginning, was, I think that it was more than they really wanted to do, as far as I could tell it back then, and as far as it made any sense to do. There was no official capacity to do that. They were just helping out, basically, and saying, well, you asked us, these are the people we think should do it. And I don't know, going forward with this whole Arts Council, I don't know what, I saw Sandy's notes to you too, and it seems to me like it's unnecessary to have them involved. It was that back then too, except that we just thought it was a nice thing to do, so to speak. And the artists, I think, appreciated it
what was the impetus to even start doing that and having us get involved either?
because there were so many at one time wanting to do it, and so many people wanting to do things that weren't art. And so we were getting complaints from shopkeepers, especially brick and mortar shops, saying these guys are selling jewelry or balloons or doing a dance show and putting out a thing, and they're collecting money, and they're not paying CAPC taxes, they're not paying rent. This isn't fair. They need to pay something. They need to be regulated. They need a permit, like any other vendor. If we're going to allow vendors in the park, well, vendors in the park were already kind of thing, and the rules changed a couple times about busking and music during that time too. The impetus was just the confusion, so many people. When we first started really making it available, hardly anybody really signs up for it anymore. Much less people want to do it now than there were back then. I think there's more opportunity for those people to sell, say like at the farmer's market, people that want to do that. There isn't the same demand that there was back then. Back then it was just a way to show that we're trying to control it. And by charging money, we thought that was a way to control it too.
well, let me preface this, my part of the report. There are cities like Santa Fe that have many, many galleries, and they also have huge art fairs, and they're well attended. One of the problems well, let me just share with you what, she had a great idea, and I thought we were going to say this. She wanted to do it quarterly. She wanted to raise the permit to $100, which would provide much more money for us. And, but she didn't want to police it. But I don't really see having an art festival as, we've all agreed that the function of that is that's not what we do. We're about parks.
Right.
Do we want to bring money in for the parks? Yes, we do. Do we want to make Basin Park better? Yes, we do. If we don't do anything at all, well, it boiled down to they don't have the personnel and don't want to do it, and we don't have the personnel and don't want to do it. But if something isn't done, basically the police will have to chase people out of the park, and people will come and they will sell undesirable things.
Yes. that's what
So
was happening before.
it's really good for the city to have quality art there. So I don't want to drop this whole idea of maybe quarterly with raising the permit fees, and if there's some way that maybe a volunteer would, one single person would take this on, working with them and us to, there's people out there that this would be their thing, you know. this is an event, and 4 times a year, they would be more than thrilled to do that, and maybe we could pay them a little bit. So she said they were going to put a pause on until October, and they're going to honor anything up until that point, and then they're going to put a pause on it. And I suggest that we continue to discuss this and not throw our hands up at this point, and then everybody can be happy.
I'm 100% in support of that
Okay.
idea.
I agree, and there's still more research, and like you said, Santa Fe, look at how other cities do. The problem with Basin Park is it's not a town square, it's a park, and it's a sidewalk through downtown, basically.
Yes.
You know, you go to Santa Fe or Taos, and there's these places where you can be walking around an area, and it doesn't block things, and it's just more, it feels more to have art vendors down there all the time, and if it were full every single time, on the one hand, it does give a nice atmosphere to downtown.
It does.
But it's also really crowded down there. There's just hard to make all the time that the only thing we do in the park. No, there's lots of things that park needs to do.
Sure.
This is not our main mission statement is to provide a place for artists.
But light bulb went off when you talked about the farmers market. They do have a full-time employee, don't they, that handles them?
Yeah.
We maybe could annex off of what they're doing 4 times a year.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I think.
I love
That's why
that.
I like the whole idea of we don't need to throw a baby out with the bathwater. We can really look at it, and for the first time in this era, is make it something
special.
valuable to the community and to
Yeah.
the artist,
Yeah.
but without being what it was in the past, because that was a whole different reason. I still like the
Right.
idea of it. I think
Right.
everybody would agree if you get the right artist and you plan it, and you can actually even put it out on the post-it that this is the week we're having an artist in the park or something like that, then you can make it a real event versus just this random sort of thing that's been going on that I don't think anybody really could explain. I mean,
No, no, it's just
sort
confusing.
of took a life of its own. So I love that idea, and we'll keep doing that, and I'll get with you too to see maybe we can come up with maybe getting a sort of a subcommittee of actual artists maybe, or somebody who would participate. And I like the idea of maybe if somebody's doing that and they want to, you know, do a little night job, you know, maybe they would help us organize it 4 times a year
And we have the
with
outrageous.
the same sort of process that they use already.
Yes. And we might talk to the outrageous people
Oh,
and, you know, maybe do it for the month of May. I like quarterly better, but there's somebody putting that together and blocking off the street with artists. So there's other people doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember the Sunday downtown movie on the side of the building, Charlotte Buchanan thing? You know, that was years ago, but on that same day, she organized vendor booths. It was mostly art being sold. It was on a Sunday, and she did it on Sundays on purpose to have a Sunday draw for downtown. That was her purpose of it, if I recall. And it was really nice because it was it was an event, it was a Sunday. People came for it. It actually, I think, helped tourism, and locals too. People came for it. I think that it'd be nice to make this more of an event, like you said, rather than just a random, make it something people come for, locals and.
well, think about White Street Walk.
Yeah. Another example.
It's a prime example of when you do it right, you get the right artists, you get people there that maybe really want to be there, but it's organized and it's planned out and it's ahead of time and advertised. And so, yeah, there's a million things we could talk about with that, but I totally support that idea. I like that. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that? So we're basically going to table this again until we get
No,
more time
yeah,
with
just
it.
keep discussing
Some
it.
more discussion.
More discussion,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, our new business, which always comes down to money.
I'm gonna need a cookie.
You want a
Saying.
cookie?
I'm gonna need a cookie here before we talk budget. You know.
Yeah, before we do that, I'm gonna pull a cookie.
If there's any left by the time they make it to you.
Yes. You mind if I go ahead?
Huh?
You mind if I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. It's the budget amendment thing. One thing, let me start with one
Yeah.
little thing. I did mention this to Sam, and I think you guys would probably agree. If you don't, let me know. But especially this time of year and going to the rest of the year, each meeting we should have where we are in the budget report that shows what we budgeted, where we are in it, what it's looking like to the end of the year, you know, because everybody will tell you in town and everywhere else that numbers are down. They're not as high as most people predicted, you know.
True.
and
So, yeah, so our
so
sales
we'd
tax
like,
is down.
I don't want us to get to the end of the year and be shocked that, oh my gosh, we're over budget or we're under budget.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like us to all be aware of it each time, especially if we're voting on budget items. But I think it's probably a good idea to maybe in the future just do that as a practice for every meeting throughout the year where we are. And it doesn't necessarily, you know, if you're in January and February, you probably don't have to look at every line item and go, where are we? You know, but I do think it's good to sort of keep, as we go, like, what is this? What's the trend?
A little
You know?
progress report.
An overall snapshot.
Because if you think about it, that is our main goal as a commission is budgets and, you know, money, you know? So
How we spend it.
as a whole. So I think, is everybody good with that
I
idea?
definitely agree with that, because I know in some of the areas we're over budget right now, but it's because it's stuff we needed to buy for springtime. Now fall, we won't have those expenses, so it'd be nice to make sure we're making that up as those ending months.
Yeah, and it helps us too with the next year's budgeting. When we get to the next year's budgeting, to just really have that updated information. I think it's relatively easy to do, is it? I mean, is it a nightmare to?
Takes 30 minutes
Okay.
really to go through.
So what we hope for in the future when we're doing any kind of budget motions or anything, that we'll have it right in front of us, where we are, where we were, you know, where we want to be. And it'll make it a lot easier to make educated decisions than just, you know, what we have been really doing lately. I mean, I think it's not like we have a $20 million budget or anything like that, but it is probably even more important to be accurate, you know, and lower the budget now.
And like you said, numbers are down. We don't know what to expect over the next few months, not
Exactly.
as
So,
much as people expect, so.
That being said, I'll lead you into asking for money.
Yeah, right. Setting the tone here. One of the issues too, just FYI, if we do end up doing like every monthly kind of financial assessment, so we receive our sales tax money from the city. We receive it like at the end of the month, usually the last week, which means every month I give you these reports. They're going to look a little scary, but it's because we're like right before we get that big installment of money. So it's like our budget always looks the worst pretty much right before a meeting, just FYI. So, and then we get, you know, X amount of dollars from the city, and it kind of boosts those numbers up until the next month. So, yeah, so budget amendments, line item A, item A, increasing the line item 710, which is equipment and tools over $5,000. I'd like to raise that from $15,000 to $30,000 for the purchase of a new truck for the Gardner. I had $15,000 budgeted for a skid steer potentially if we were sitting okay at the end of the year, but things change. That's why you don't buy the skid steer right away.
Yeah.
You wait till the end of the year. And so I figured $30,000 is a comfortable amount of money to purchase a small, 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive truck, just to get around town. So
Yeah, and we looked
talked
online,
this
by
a
the way,
lot.
with the state. We went and I went in and looked at their state contracts, and yes, there is, and Sam did contact them, and yes, we do have access to their state contracts. And there was a truck that we thought, yeah, that might do the trick, but what we found out really is the price that we could get one for is about exactly the same price, rather than going down to Little Rock.
Wow.
So I'm sure that through their big contract, the way they buy them, there's probably some benefits to them buying from the contract, especially, if you're, say, the Public Works Department and you're buying 10 trucks, you don't have to go through all of the processes, so it's worth it to them to go through that and work through one person in Little Rock. But we would have to send somebody to Little Rock. I mean, it just becomes complicated when it's not saving us a lot of money.
Not a big.
So I
not a
just
big
sort of
price.
say that in the fact that we did do some due diligence looking at those contracts, and I do think we should take advantage of them in the future for anything that maybe could be services, could be anything that they've already negotiated contracts with, because we have full access to any contract the state negotiates.
yeah, and on that note, I had this thought today. When putting together the 2025 budget, what we could do is budget some serious money for a fleet update, and then knowing that we have access to the state procurement, we keep the trucks for 2 years, we sell them, we have a very marketable account through GovDeals. And every 2 years, we just update our fleets. And we get to have new trucks that are on warranty, 2-year warranties, so like any oil changes or fixes get covered. And then we sell them, and we spend, we sell them for, just for an example, $50,000. We spend $60,000, get a whole new fleet. And so we're basically like, spending a little bit, but we're avoiding these big, huge costs, and we're getting nicer vehicles that we're not spending as much on vehicle maintenance and repairs. Well, repairs are kind of up to our
Yeah.
drivers, but
Certainly worthy of really putting together a plan of how we want to do fleet.
Yeah.
Because we obviously, you guys have seen some of our trucks. You're like, hop along, Cassidy, go down the street, some of them. And and I really do think Parks has really always been really good about not overspending on things like that and trying to, but it's like everything else. You just wait and wait and wait, and then it's more expensive when you do need to do it, when you have no choice.
Basin Park.
But I know, yeah.
Sorry.
But I know that Sam and his gardeners have been out looking and trying to find something within this price range. So I just say that just so that you guys know that there has been some due diligence in looking for a vehicle and trying to find the appropriate one, and I'm pretty excited about the state possibilities with their contracts.
Yeah. Oh, and another issue why we wouldn't, why we were just a little hesitant to get this particular truck through the state contract was that the dealership told me it'd take 90 to 120 days to get the truck, which I'm kind of like, I know that's not that long in the grand scheme of things, but
Since
sort of feels like, okay, well,
since the other one's already not working.
Yeah, I was gonna
Need
say,
a truck.
Couldn't plan ahead.
yeah.
And that, again, is another reason to have the fleet plan, like you said, the make a plan to how you constantly replenish the fleet before it gets that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a thought. Do we want to do each one of these one at a time, or do we want to do them as
Together.
all of them together?
Together.
Okay.
Should I just go through and explain them then?
Well, let me
Yeah.
ask real quick. Does anybody have any more questions about the truck or the thought processes on it? Okay. Any discussion?
There was lots of discussion, but we didn't come to a decision.
Well, basically, what he's asking is just for $15,000.
And you feel like that's enough?
Well, 15 on top of the 15 additional on top of the 15 that was already budgeted, so making a total of 30,000. And yeah, we've done some research and found
Okay.
like that gets us a good quality truck that's under 50,000 miles.
Okay.
That's relatively new, and yeah.
All right.
So
Does that answer your question, Ruth?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're,
Okay, the second line item is to decrease line item 734 from 25,000 to 10,000.
yes, so that was non-utilities that are not associated with Lake Leatherwood. So any utilities for Harmon, Basin, Sweet Spring, the water bills for all the springs, electric bills, Wi-Fi for the office, stuff like that. So
It's
Pretty
basically just
standard.
reclassifying it, isn't it? Moving it
Yeah.
from one account to another.
Well, that's why you kind of got to do B and C together.
Decreasing it and then increasing
Yeah,
it.
B and C.
well, they're not really connected. You can think of it two separate things.
Okay.
It just so happens that they're kind of, because it's not the exact amount that I'm requesting a change for. Initially, I thought we could just switch them, but I think it's better we over budget, and then hopefully we come up less rather than under budget.
Okay, so
end up going
basically
over.
what you're saying, just so I'm saying this out loud, clear, line 734 is for non-Leatherwood utilities. So everything
Correct.
that's not Leatherwood.
Everything that's not Leatherwood.
We currently budgeted for 25,000, but
Yes.
you're saying 10,000 will cover all non-Leatherwood.
Based on what we've been doing
Okay.
throughout the year, where we're
Okay,
projected.
and then, so we're basically getting $10,000 back on the non-Leatherwood side.
15.
$15,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
$15,000 back on the non-Leatherwood side. On the Leatherwood utility side, because we think we basically reversed the budget numbers, right? Like we did
Sort of, but 5,000 is still probably a little low for even the
for
non-Leatherwood
anybody,
utilities.
right?
Yeah,
I don't know,
so-
well, we learn, we live and learn.
Yep.
So, and the second one is to increase 748, which is the Leatherwood utilities, which is from 5,000 to 25,000. So we're adding $20,000 to utilities.
It was sorely under budgeted, and that's probably my fault.
So there's a net change in that, just so for the
Yes.
total bottom line of $5,000.
Yes, yeah.
The net, okay.
Does everybody understand that? I mean, does that make sense?
I have some questions,
Okay.
though, about Leatherwood.
Yeah.
It just seems like a great, complicated opportunity to either lose a lot of money or make a lot of money. Is there a plan to kind of assess the rents and the expenses?
On what?
Has it, we're in the motel business, basically.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
how many cabins out there?
9.
9?
Yeah.
It just seems like we really need to make a study of the expenses and what we can get for rent and what needs to be fixed up or
Oh, yeah.
cleaned. We
We
just,
just kind of did that.
we
Yeah,
did?
we just did.
Okay. Did I
Yeah,
just
we.
miss that? Okay.
Well, yeah, and we're also like, I mean, Juanita and I this winter are planning on getting with a local friend of mine who does, property management systems,
Good.
and like really getting into the nitty gritty on how we can better promote and like try to keep our cabins more full in the winter and
Good.
off season. So
And rate
we're really
adjustments.
rate adjustments and
Yeah, it seems like wintertime would be a great, weekend getaway for people that are from Arkansas or nearby. Be a great season to do that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right.
That's what we're
so
hoping to do. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
We've already.
Oh no, yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. No, just to emphasize, the Leatherwood utilities is not just cabins and stuff. It's for the whole entire park system. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
includes our Wi-Fi out there now, right?
Wi-Fi at both the ball fields and the main park area. There's 9 cabins. There's a visitor center. There's a debate shop. There's the bathhouse. There's
Yeah. All the things that use everything.
the lights at the ball fields. There's just, yeah. Turns out to be quite a bit.
I wish we could. Do the cabins have individual meters? I'm sure they don't.
I don't think they're individual, but they're pretty specified. I don't know if it gets down to like each individual cabin, but it gets down to like they group them 2 at a time
They're
or
grouped,
something like
yeah,
that.
they're grouped. If I remember years ago
So
doing that.
get, like,
it'd be
cabin
nice
2, 3, 4, and-
when we have nothing else to do, to do like a real study on the actual break-even point, like where we're
Yeah.
actually making money.
Oh, and
versus
a big
just-
thing too is the RV sites. Like that's power for the RV
Yeah,
sites.
yeah.
And
So just, I mean, at some point, like I said, when we have nothing else to do, to really evaluate, are we making money at all on those, or are we just recouping some of our expenses?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what any business would have to do, but it'd be interesting to look at that over time. I'm just sorry, that's rambling.
No, yeah.
And then the last item on that is readjustment of housekeeping position to part-time. Sam, let's explain that one.
Yeah, so a couple, 2 or 3 meetings ago, I can't remember when, we decided to make it full-time. However, it just, with the potential cleaning contract coming up, and honestly, I think it's probably not to get into employee, talking about employees at all, but just think the future is maybe, not that we're going to get rid of that position, but kind of cutting it back to where it's not so demanding. Like that's a hard job, and doing that full time is tough, and it's just it's a kind of job that makes sense to contract out anyway, because sometimes you have really busy times.
Right.
Sometimes
So
it's
basically,
slow.
just for the sake of the record, I mean, is
Yes.
that what we're basically saying? We all voted to make it full-time, we're all now just going to vote to make it back to
to
part-time?
revert it back. To
Okay, can we say
original.
effective what date? Just like,
I mean, effective
today.
today. Yeah,
Okay.
or tonight.
okay, so those are all the budget items. I want to make sure everybody has thought it through, has any questions.
A and B negate each other.
Well, not really. There's a $5,000 addition to the budget.
From A and B,
Yes, see, 25,000
Oh,
to
I think
10,000.
Rod's saying.
A is 15,000 plus, B is 15,000 minus.
No, B
So
is
that-
20,000 minus.
No.
Just to give you guys a heads
Or
up,
positive.
I went ahead and did it.
5 to 25.
I went ahead and did it, and
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you exactly what it is.
Okay.
the total difference is going to be $20,000, but more budgeted.
Yes,
After
that's what I'm
the
saying.
housekeeping adjustment, after the,
Yes, that's what I was saying.
after all the line item adjustments, yeah, so.
So the
Yes,
net,
Just to give you like a
It's
exact
15,
number.
it's 15,000 for the truck, and then 5,000 for the difference in utilities.
Correct.
And that's it,
Okay,
in the plus.
yes.
The changing the position to part-time doesn't save us anything because it never really went full-time.
Correct, yeah, there was a debacle over the paperwork, and anyway,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's really just for the purposes of formalizing that position.
I would also just like to throw it out there, just as a side note, before you guys vote, the bait shop sales are, I budgeted $100,000 in bait shop sales. We're already at $100,000.
Awesome.
We're actually already over 100,000.
that's great.
Our
Part-
cabin projections are way above.
You can totally see that. I mean,
Yeah.
when you go down there in these days, you can see that
It
on
is.
weekends especially.
I can tell.
Out there in
That
the
park
meetings.
is hopping.
It has been. So I guess I also want to make a point that if there's anybody who is for one thing and against the other, which is sort of one of those things I hate to kind of bundle it all up, please speak up. You know, if there's a motion to do all of this as presented in a second, make sure we'll discuss that one more time. Could I just make sure? Because these are different things. In fact, I almost would prefer just to do these separate and not, I mean, as far as the vote goes, because they are separate things in terms of budget line items.
Okay,
Is that okay with everybody?
that's, yeah, your decision.
So I think the first one is account 710 from 15,000 to 30,000. So does anybody want to make a motion for that?
Move approval as written.
A second.
Motion from Rod, second by Ruth to increase line item 710 from 15,000 to 30,000 for the purchase of the Gardner truck. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right. So I am going to put B and C as one because they are basically utilities. So I would just say to increase account 734 from 25 to decrease 734 from 25 to 10,000 and increase line item 748 from 5,000 to 25,000.
Move approval of B and C as written.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Rod, second by Ruth Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And then finally, we have the readjustment of housekeeping position to part-time.
Move approval D as written.
I'll second.
Motion from Rod, second from Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, that takes care of that. We got commissioners' comments. Beth?
None tonight.
Ruth Mitchell? Aaron?
Nope.
I do have one thing, even though my term was in the beginning, but I just remember this. I'm going to be out of town starting like this Sunday through probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'll be back for the next meeting, I think, but I know Beth and I are going to be out of town at the same time. So Ruth, you going to be in town? Okay. So Ruth will be available for check signing. Just want to make sure that all three of us are not going at one time.
And I'm not going on vacation with him.
Yeah, we're just going to be gone at the same time.
Not that I wouldn't, but I'm not.
So, but Ruth will be here. She just got back from vacation.
Go back on vacation, yes.
So she's
Lovely.
good. Ruth, you have anything?
I don't think so, other than when Ruth Mitchell and I were talking about the Arts Council thing, I will say that I've had a few locals ask me about it at the restaurant because they've seen that we've been discussing it. And it's nice to hear the feedback from people. I love that I have that forum at the restaurant. It's nice. I don't have to solicit it, it's just there. And I did say I love it, I really do, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But several people at the restaurant did tell me, like we were saying, it'd be nice if it were an event, if it were a thing, if it were like the farmer's market, but downtown. And so it was nice to hear a few people say that in town. So that was it. Okay.
I have nothing to say. I'm good.
Sam, are you completely done? Oh, wait.
As far as utilities go, I just want to point out we also received a refund for $240 the other day from Cox Cable because we finally got our internet canceled, the one that had been defunct for like 4 years. And
Wow.
we finally, I just knew about it a couple months ago. We got it canceled. And now we got a check back. We won't ever have to pay that again. So that'll save us on utilities for next year. Like $3,000.
That's good.
All right, so that takes care of that. Last item on the agenda is adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ruth and second by Ruth Mitchell. Adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.